let's see here. Now, a few things. I've actually read part of the manual now. You'll be surprised to hear. Grey Knight is here as well, too. My chair is creaking a bit. Right, well, no big deal. And also watching Alvaro's great tutorial videos that would highly recommend watching. So one of the things I've been failing to do is over here on convoys. And this is an important thing that you need to do. If you look here, you can see where there's active convoys for Britain, for the USA, Soviet, and China, which don't have any. What we need to do is to assign some escorts. I knew we had escorts. Quite honestly, I just guessed that they were automatically assigned. But nope. So since we don't have a lot of convoys, we have, the Pacific Ocean ones, as opposed to the, Indian Ocean, Bay of Bengal, South China Sea, and all that. We'll put 4 there, I think. Hey, Van Bishop. Good to have you here today as well. So we're going to go with that. And for Britain, we will, since we also have 12 here, we're going to put a couple into the Indian Ocean. Not that I'm expecting trouble now, but it may come to that. And so we will have some there. Scooter here as well. Man, all my friends are here today. At least I hope you're my friends. So that's one thing we need to keep track on. Deployment here is just the communications intercepts that are ready, and we can use them as we like. Now, another thing, and Jaculius, very good. Another thing that I just thought of while waiting to get ready here. India doesn't have any transports. And I don't think they can use Britain's. So when we get a chance, we will want to be able to get some transports. Now, building some landing ships might be useful. Oh, and Frere Oakenshield, thank you for the cheer, my friend. Thank you. Landing ships might also be useful, but I'm thinking mostly if we do the landings under Britain and then follow along forces, maybe with India would be good. And yes, thank you for being a subscriber, Gasyanka. So we will see about building some more of those as time comes along. Now, continuing talking on the building front with the USA here. We have a decent stockpile, but other things that we really should, and I think will help supply when pushing onto some of these islands, would be some truck supplies. So let's build at least one of those. Takes 90 days. We're probably a bit late on it. And oilers would also be nice to keep. I really want to keep the U.S. strategically mobile and not be too tied down to anything. So we're going to build some of that. Because, okay, let's take a quick zoom out and look here. I've done a decent job. I'm still sort of surprised that we were able to hold in Singapore. I don't know if it was just luck or the AI, but we've contained Japan so far. China has contained Japan. over here in Burma, if we can get Rangoon back, that would be a good supply route into China. But we would have probably contained Japan somewhere in here anyways. So we've contained Japan. Now, with the US, we need to have air and naval assets to dominate the oceans. And then all we really need is just enough of overwhelming ground assets to take particular places, because if we can control, and we're not really there yet at all, but if we can control the naval spaces here, we don't have to defend all these islands with lots of garrisons. So that, you know, we don't need lots of ground forces. We're not playing Germany versus Russia or some game along those terms. I am probably, without the naval assets, leaving Hawaii a little too open, but I don't think I'm leaving the US open, and I plan on moving more out because that's not likely to be invaded under these conditions. And so, where Japan has to worry about that. So that's why I say strategically mobile, to get the American forces in and where you want them is going to be the critical thing. And also with air and naval elements to cut off supply to these other forces as well will help. We're bringing down more fleet down here. Currently, the main U.S. fleet is down here. We can see the carrier groups. And that is where I think the decision points will be made on this game. All right. Enough lecturing on the idea. So that's why I'm not building large ground forces at this time. I'm looking at wanting to build things like the oilers and supply trucks. Only 60 days there. Let's go for another one. And we also need to be able to utilize properly some of our paratroopers. We're going to go with a purchase some air transport. Okay, that ate up a good chunk of our stockpile, which is fine. But just means I'm not going to be looking at doing more with that for the moment. I think, though, for Britain, we will and oilers, yes. Maybe we should also do escorts too. That's another thing. Like I say, okay, it takes a long time, but we should definitely be doing. And for the United States, escorts. We'll do 2 of those. Get those in production. So just keep on that as for strategic mobility with your forces. Now, down here, what I think I want to do, I say that because I don't know all the consequences of it. We're going to move this Chinese army group down here, and that down here. I just sort of want to scare these guys a little bit, keep them from concentrating too much force in one point, keep them worried about having to garrison other places. Right, that looks good. Looks like we're holding well through China here. Let's look at our, okay, Flying Tigers. We have enough oil to operate. Let's beat up on this guy, because I can just see these trying to overwhelm him. Okay, well, hopefully disrupt their effectiveness a bit. Still hoping we can hold out down here, but I sort of have a surprise. I have played this next turn a couple of times, and it goes differently different times. So the AI doesn't always do the same thing, which is good. Yeah, I think we're good here. Oh, that's right. We need to. Don't know. We're going to build some submarines as Britain, or what? Because we can see we're currently invested. We have two unassigned research. Let's see what the U.S. is currently doing, and Russia, which I'm not caring about this playthrough, and China, they're doing a little bit, helping close air support and whatnot, improving that. I think maybe attack submarines. We can get that researched a bit better. So we need to work on our research there some. Right. Okay, I think we can give the AI their turn now. Zoom it a little bit more. You can sort of follow what they're doing somewhat. Shifting down around here. Moved into there, which might be an opportunity for us to attack. We only want to do so when it's particularly favorable. So they are surrounding the one unit somewhat. Yeah, that unit's maybe a bit of an issue there. Okay, we've got more landing ships, which we've been needing. And the first corps has no supply source now. That first corps is down here. And we're going to move to here, which captures this port. So now we have a supply source for future operations here, which is useful. So that's been a successful landing. Now, like I say, I've been working on this somewhat. So we're going to, well, actually, I'm going to save this just to make sure that I do this right. Not have to replay everything because I did an oopsie. I think we'll come right to here. They lost 2 air units and we did 1. We're going to then show invasion to can't. This is what, okay. Yeah, I think this is what we're going to do here. Let's want to try this. Let's exit. And come back here. So I don't know if I move the full 2 things if I can still land. Now, yes, folks, I am still learning some of the details on Okay, ooh, they got beat up pretty bad. Okay. Okay, yeah, no, we can't do that. That's right. Didn't think so. Because we've used up our full action points, so we can't. So yes, we're going to go back to the safe. Just wanted to test that out. So what we're going to do instead of trying to do that, we're going to come up over into here. Okay. We can see, let's take a look at the reports. Not bad luck, that's what I'm looking for. Their air interdiction. They're attacking 1st Air Brigade, lost 2 defenses, lost 1 squadron. And we can see here that I don't know if they were already damaged. I don't think so. I think that took a little bit of damage there. So they're there now. They can't come through these straits because we're still holding Singapore. So if they're going to move any naval forces after us, they've got to come down through these straits or some other straits. So we're still securing this up here, which is very good for ourselves. And so next turn, we're going to see about landing over in here. Now, yes, thanks for following. We really do appreciate it. I think what we're going to see about doing is moving you down to here. Okay, not a good attack, but we are facing off against there. I don't think we need to hear the HQ any closer. I don't know if they're going to come after this or not. We will see. Okay, so now we have this unit here. It's not very strong, obviously. But we're behind a river, and that also means attacking is stupid. And we're not going to, but it's just the idea that we're sitting here facing them, making the AI a little nervous. Hello, Pingvods, how you doing? I'm doing quite well. Hey, Chetan, how you doing? The war is going reasonably well for the Allies this time. Now we do have some forces out here. Okay. Another thing I have been neglecting to doing is adding to the escorts, or supplementing the escorts with some more naval forces to hunt submarines. So we're going to put them out there to look for submarines. Enemy ones, that is. Friendlies are going to come up to here. Still not going to be very effective because they're under the penalties that the US had. We are transporting a Marine division along with everything else, but we're not going to invade with it this turn. So we're going to come up to here. Yes, I'm doing quite well. Yeah, we got to watch out for subs. And watch out for our subs. I've gotten a few of ours killed, being a little too aggressive with them. Now, being aggressive with subs that have faulty torpedoes is not the smartest thing to do. We currently have 65. Well, you know what I want to do here, I think. Instead of moving some of them. Okay. We can see that there are ships here, there's ships here. What I'm going to do now is let's come over to deploy. We can also deploy some other stuff, but I want to grab one of these from Britain's Intel queue. Let's drop it right here. Okay, low Intel levels, but it does give us a +4. So we can see better. This has a BB and transports. Has a battleship group right there. And let's come over to the US and use one of our communications intelligence centers. And let's drop it right, let's deploy it right here. Okay, so medium intel. So with a +5, so we can click here and see transports is what they've got. Okay, not a whole lot of forces. So I'm going to be stupid and reckless. I want to put you on ships, unselect everything, and select these guys because it's too far for them to fly. We're going to come up to here, and they made it without and disembarking, without being intercepted. A bit, yes. Hello, Carethos? You mean bold and daring? Well, that would be another way of saying it. If it works, it's bold and daring. If you fail, it's stupid and reckless. And so what I'm trying to do is build up Air Force elements to be able to be aggressive here with some island attacks. I've been trying to use some of the submarines out here to cut their supply, but they get munched by the enemy. Hey, Arliss. Yeah, very similar to the first WarPlan, which I'm a big fan of. But yes, obviously it's the Pacific, so it's needed a bunch of tweaking and changes and whatnot. Yeah, these guys, because we've just taken this, we can't quite occupy there yet. Okay, we're going to convert this, or we're not convert, we're going to signal that we're doing a naval attack. And we're going to attack this battleship group here and see if we are bold and daring or reckless and stupid. Okay, well, let's look at the reports. Naval Airstrike. Okay, the battle cruiser squadron. Okay, it's a battle cruiser squadron here. Defenders losses on 2, though we took our group 6 losses. So what the problem here, we can see we're down. It's at 14 instead of 20. The problem here is we did not have. Keep clicking out there. One of these groups as an interceptor here. That would have been smarter of me. I was being stupid and reckless with not preparing things well. Trust me, I am still learning the nuances of this game. I'm sure some of the beta developers and Alvaro know it much better than I do. Air power concentration, nice choice, yes. It's like a sweet spot between. Absolutely. Carathis. If I'm pronouncing that right. And hello, Roby. That's what it's meant to be. It's, and there is a forum for it on the Matrix forums, and you can hear Alvaro talking about it. And there's been some discussion, how long it would take for play by email War in the Pacific, doing like 2 turns a day, and versus WarPlan Pacific, and it's something like 6 months versus like 3 years. If you look at it that kind of way, if you're playing just 2 turns a day. So if you want, if you play War in the Pacific and you go, yeah, this is sort of a simplistic game, got something more detailed, this ain't for you, obviously. If War in the Pacific is your sweet spot, well, of course, you've already found it. If you're looking for something a little less, detailed, a little less management, that's where this is. And I'm a big believer in having games in each of the sort of spaces, if you will, of wargaming. Not everything needs to be the most detailed, the most historical. But this is rather detailed, rather historical. It is not a simplistic game. So yeah, so yes, and again, I am experimenting and learning, and we can definitely see from the intel, the airbase symbol is hey, there's some air units up here. We have no idea what they are. Where here we can click here and see, a tactical air unit, 6th Air Division, status unknown. So because of our intel, so we got some ideas, and that was just a reckless attack that I wanted to launch. Since I knew where their bombers were, but we learned. We live, we learn. Right, okay, now. I want to see, okay, 1-to-1 attack. Probably not worthwhile doing. So we are definitely in a situation here. We can see we are in the mountains. So that they're getting to where they're surrounding this unit and be able to do attacks from 3 units, which is not quite what we want. Note that they have they have really retreated out of here. I think some of this movement here, as we can see here, partisan activity up here, partisan activity out here, and these partisans obviously going in. This may have been last turn's sort of partisan suppression, or just the AI dancing around. I'm not quite sure. And again, Alvaro would remind you, this is a slightly older build. There are newer, better builds with better AIs already done. Okay, well, because we are getting so much action up there, we're going to try to relieve the situation a little bit by turning tables on them. We can't do anything about this turn, or not effectively, I don't think. 3-2, not quite what I want to do, but we're there. Let's move you up to here to keep that line. Now we have 4 units facing off against them, and hopefully next turn we'll be ready to be able to push you. And yes, thanks so much for following. We'll be able to maybe push on them, and it may convince the AI, hey, don't push too hard up here. Come down and worry about this spot. We've shifted all those forces down there. Now they don't have much in the way of some air power down here, but we will use these guys. These are interceptors. This is a really light, and we lost an air strength. We'll do 1 more, and we shouldn't have done that either, but okay. I'd like to next turn be able to push on that if they stay there. Okay, I think that's most of what we're doing down there. This is Naval Air. This is the bomber group. Close support. Both very useful, but we're going to embark these guys here. Send them to Australia. They'll be down there next turn. And we also have units to deploy, which we wouldn't be able to do with anything significant this turn. We want to deploy these onto ports so that we can move them next turn. Here, okay. They have enough comment points to build another comment. So we'll build that. Now I am hoping all this activity, including having the ships down here, is keeping the Japanese away from Midway and whatnot. Hoping is never a good strategic planning or idea. So, hello, Chaplain. How you doing? Chaplain for Bacchus. Yes, I sort of get the reference there. What do we have other? Let's just check other. Okay, we do have the 10th DD flotilla for Britain. We want to come down here, deploy it, and I think other than the comment is the only thing we can deploy here. Okay, now build. Again, we've got a lot more. We're going to put another. I'm planning on doing lots of naval invading. So some landing ships in there. Van Bishop, the AI is doing very well. Now, again, I want to state this is an earlier version than what is going to be released. I think from one of the posts, Alvaro said he sent in his final version for the release, and he's working on things, so I'm sure it will improve from there. So it's better than what I'm playing with right now. But it's being smart. I mean, there was the one sort of Japanese division or corps, I forget which one it was, but that marched up in here and got cut off. But otherwise, it's being rather smart. So I'm not really having a problem with that. Now, what I think we're going to do here is, with Britain, I want to send more resources to India. Do we currently have anything going to India? No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, so we're going to create a trade after. I think like 10 would be good. We might as well throw on an oil. We're going to create the trade. I want to build up India enough so that it can, again, get some transports. Needs 100, and we're keeping on the upkeep, and we need to do that as well for it. Back to Britain. Take ships supply. Okay, that's good. The USA. And let's take a quick look here. Yeah. We'll save up more for next turn. Okay. So I think that's our builds. We've deployed everything we're going to deploy this turn. We got some ships out there to help work with that. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Let's come over. Pan, zoom in a bit, so hopefully we'll be able to follow their actions. Ferry ops complete. Well, I'm keeping right now the Marines on board ship, so that we can maybe do a naval invasion or just a move it to a port. So now we're still moving some forces down. So let's give their, let's zoom in. Are you sure? Yes, we're going to give. Okay. Well, they're shifting forces down here. I don't know if it's because of this or what. And I put the squeeze on him, which weakens him, which is good for us, I think, as long as they don't damage him too much. Never had enough troops to invade Australia. Yeah, well, that wasn't their war goal for Japan. I mean, obviously they had enough troops in the sense that they could have pulled troops out of China to do it, but they didn't have enough troops to even hold their territories in China. And realize the Japanese equipped about 300,000, just get the volume, 300,000 collaborationist Chinese troops they equipped. Now, I don't know that any of those troops were even effective at any sort of offensive operations, even against other Chinese forces, let alone something like the Americans or the British. But those were, anti-partisan garrison type troops, just, probably a lot of people that are just looking for a paycheck and food, and so that just, to sort of stay alive. And so they weren't, gloriously trying to die for either the Japanese Empire or the East Asian co-prosperity sphere, which their their version of the Republic of China or whatever, was part of it. I mean, they might just, the Japanese are better than the Europeans controlling us, or the Japanese are better than the chaos or something like that, or the Japanese are going to win, so might as well be on the winning side. I mean, there may be other motivations than purely, a paycheck. And definitely if you look at Manchukuo, there were a lot of sort of Manchurian types that were nationalists more for themselves than the rest of China. So they wanted their own state not to be dominated by, as they saw it, Southern Chinese. So there was definitely, other motivations there. But a lot of them were just, hey, food and a paycheck. And so, guarding railway bridges or whatever, they were adequate at, given the condition. But that's still 300,000 of those types of troops spread out around China. And China can't even control the areas that they more or less, are able to occupy with large forces. But once those forces sort of, move to some other front area, they've got to have all this support. So yeah, Japan does not have really the forces to properly invade Australia if they're going to try to hold China. And so their war game is resources, and it's primarily in the Pacific War is oil. I mean, they want steel too. They're getting it out of Manchuria, however you want to say it at the time. And that's a big war aim, is steel. Is two driving elements are steel and oil for Japan, resource-wise. I mean, there's other resources that are important to them, but those are the two driving ones. And yeah, Australia they just wanted to defeat the Commonwealth and American forces enough to get a settlement which would secure the oil. I think they might have been willing to pull out of the Philippines and out of Singapore, just so long as the Americans and the British, or whatever you want to call them, Commonwealth British, would agree on a peace treaty that gave them the Dutch East Indies. I think. I don't know. Hey, Arno, good to have you here, my friend. And a wiki for you proposed Japanese invasion Australia during World War regards it being unfeasible. I actually did in another game taking Central Australia took forever. Yeah, China and India of the time was much easier. Well, India is an interesting case. Okay, oil produce storage facilities improvements become available. Okay, so we have more oil. Very good. Now, let's save this, just because I do make mistakes and don't want to have to replay everything. 7, there we go. Yeah. Now, let's come up here where we're going to come in here, and this is sort of why I'm saving this. Let's come to here. And we're going to, here, show disembarkation. Okay, this is one thing that I really don't like about this game, and I'm sure, okay, Alvaro, you're probably going to watch this at some point, is guessing where I can do invasions. Now, I understand the mechanic, and that's one of the reasons I went recently and read a little bit more about naval or invasions and the instructions. And so yes, you get close enough, you can figure out where it is. But otherwise, I'm sort of was experimenting. Where along here could I invade? Where could I invade? And yeah, and I don't know all the determining factors of where, because I could also invade up here on this hex here, but not on this hex and not on this hex. So I don't know all of what's going on here. I just don't know. So now we have here, we can invade. We have the 10th Corps, and I'm going to right click on there on the beach, and we're ashore. And now we're going to march over here and take Kota Baru. So yeah, it's a bit confusing to me, as you can see. Once you get there, you have to sort of like get there and go, well, from this point, where can I invade? The reason I knew to come here is here, but if I'd come up to here, it wouldn't have told me that I could invade here. It's only from there. So I don't know the parameters of invasion. And I will totally grant, either from the idea of not wanting to have to, garrison a whole coastline, just because sort of the scale of the game and the scale of the units and that kind of thing. One, so I get that, as well as just simply the real physical limitations on some areas that to invade would not be good, like you say, beaches or good invasion points. So, yeah, the weather might have some impact on it, but I was checking out in some, just playing the first turn of this stream several times and trying to figure out where I could invade with this force. It took me a while, and weather didn't seem to be the main impact then, Bishop. So I don't know all the parameters. Now, maybe a bit more dynamic than just simply these beaches are and these beaches aren't, and I just don't realize it. But that is, and now maybe there's something simple, and I went and clicked all these things up here. If there was something simple that showed them to me, but I couldn't find a map mode that showed potential invasion beaches. So just keep that in mind playing in that. So yeah, it just keep that in mind. You're going to march up to here. Might as well. We're not going to attack. Now here we're going to here. Thought I right. Okay, no, I guess it's just down here. Make sure we get that. All right. We're going to put you on board ship. And we're going to again make a bold and daring dash up to here, and we're going to just disembark into a port. So yeah, I definitely knew, controlling the port, you need to control it for a turn, and then you can use the port for supply, garrison, whatever purposes. So we are pushing there. Now, what we also need to do here is okay. Now, one thing I have not built, which I probably should, I should have built. Okay, now this is something I should have built a long time ago, and this is my mistake here. I didn't build any airfields. Airfields are, in a way, sort of like the communication intelligence, though they are at least permanent until attacked. Is you can designate a hex. We can see here, like here, click here. We can see all the hexes. It could move to there, or we can't. There's no prepared airbase. But if you build air bases and have them, just ready to deploy, you can deploy them basically, I think, wherever you have reasonably appropriate supply levels. And so I have not, either as the US or Britain, built any air bases. That is a mistake of mine, to not being prepared for some of these operations here. So just keep that in mind, that you should have some of those built and ready to operate from. Okay, well, since we do have that airbase there, and I think it's relatively well protected, we're going to keep it on full support there, and we're going to come up to here. This will get our fighter group up, hopefully within range to intercept some of these other air units. Well, I do have a carrier groups here. Yorktown, Saratoga, Lexington, Hornet, and Enterprise. And I can do from here, I can bomb armies, but I'm just trying to also use land-based airplanes as well and set them up. So trying to have that set up, I think, is important. I'm going to, okay, these guys are already running a bit low on fuel, so we're going to pop them into here. We're going to send out, well, those don't have enough escorts. Let's look up here. This has a fair amount of escorts, so let's unselect all of these except for them. We're going to move you up to here as well to deal with it. Yeah, we do have an airbase out here. We do have an airbase here. and just the ports have enough capacity here to deal with it. Just keep that in mind. Again, I'm not in any way stating that I'm an expert on this. I am learning like you guys are. Well, let's come up here and look at my possibility of a attack here. Okay, we're gonna have the Flying Tigers strike this unit, hopefully disrupting them somewhat. And then let's control. Okay, 2 to 1. Let's try this. Oop, force them out. Very good. Now they're forced out, and I'm not going to leave these guys out here hanging. They're going to come into the city and hold there. So now we're back to a straight line here, and then a line coming down this way. So yes, they can get 3 units around here eventually to assault him. But that's probably going to be a while before they can do so effectively, and hopefully he will get more effectiveness in placement. Oh yes, Henderson, we can see here, let's remove the units here. Henderson Field right here is sort of labeled here, and this is sort of a permanent airbase there. So you can see this some of the other ones do sort of disappear, but okay. So yes, we are controlling Henderson Field there on Guadalcanal. And we have other air supporting elements here. Can we get more planes to the China front? I'm not sure about that. I am prohibited from moving British or Indian forces into China. I am prohibited from moving Chinese forces into Burma, even though they did historically. Alvaro, it was just game balance and scale. The few divisions that did come here, did get in here and then fly in more troops to work them up to better strength. I mostly agree. Sort of kind of think something should be worked out a little bit, but I don't know specifically about Americans, and I don't know specifically about what we can see here. Well, I guess not here, because I think Lijiang would be in likely an airbase because it's a city well within range. So no, we can't at least bring in Indian forces. I don't know about American forces. Yeah. What we can do is once we get, the Burma Road opened up more, we can send more resources to build units in China. So that is a thing here. Okay. So we've taken them. We're still holding down here, which is very good. These guys now are going to start running out of supply because they don't have that supply base or the port, and they're cut off from here. So we're pushing there. And now we can look at supply here. Okay, currently that's what the supply looks like here. So we don't control that. We don't have supplies there. What I'm going to see about doing is Marines can, unlike regular units, they can step across these simple, gaps here on the island. So he couldn't come from here to here, but they can come from here to there, where regular ground forces can't. Just sort of their inherent amphibiousness, I guess. So we're going to move the stronger Marine. They're at 10. These guys are at 15. I guess, these guys have been so weakened by supply. Let's move these guys up and these guys up here. Let's see how that goes. Okay, we've got some more in there. And yes, I'm going to now learn from my lesson. We are going to build 3 air bases. And Britain will build just 1. Don't quite have the production freedom. Right. Now we've had this bomber group here. It's on board ship still. Let's bring them up into here. And just to free up the ships, we'll disembark. I want to continue bringing air power down. Let's send these battleships out to Hawaii. Battleships never have problems in Hawaii, do they? They do have some air interceptors and won't be a surprise attack. Move them to Australia. Oh no. Keep right and left clicking along once in a while. Yes, they'll be down there next turn. And not enough shipping to move them as well, but we will get on that. Now here, I don't know. Let's think about that for the moment. Let's come down here. Okay, so we have the Glasgow. Oh, do we have forces to deploy? Yes. Okay. You can deploy to there. Good. No, we have another battleship for the U.S. coming online. Deploy here. Yeah, nothing else. Dutch Navy are still alive. Yes. Yes, we still have. Or no, it's Dutch. We still have. Where is it? The Reuter light cruiser flotilla is still alive as part of Abdafloat, and it is still Abdafloat, not Abdasunk. I evacuated it from the Indonesia region early on to keep it from going down. All of the forces there. So we have out here in the U.S. No. Oh yes, we have the Houston. So Houston is out there. Houston's heavy cruiser squadron as well, as part of that joint force. Okay, I'm going to wait for these guys to be operational because they've used up all their operating points getting up here before I start attacking again. And hopefully these guys will get, well, these guys are a bit hurt up here. Okay, so other production questions here. The US and Britain. Don't have nearly enough to produce a carrier group. Light carrier group we could add. We can look over here and see we've got a lot of support elements coming. Bunch of CVs coming. But those are in 44, so those are way down the road, which even some of the stuff we built. Yeah. You know what I think we will, just for various submarine and anti-submarine type operations. Let's build some of those forces here. Submarine group, yeah, it will still take 100 days to build. So let's build, oh no, we need to be over on the right one. Correct one. Yeah, Growler group. I think we got I think we got range enough to get a couple of these just as regular attack submarines. See a little better. We can, well, let's do that. A destroyer group, going to take a bit more. We'll do that maybe next turn. Keep that going. You've saved the Grey Ghost, i.e. the Houston thus far. Yep. I believe heavily in one of the main reasons that I like playing these war games is not to make the mistakes that were made historically. It's not just to see, well, this time, will my die roll be different than the historical die roll, if you will, and can we keep the ABD afloat, being effective in here? No, I just knew enough of history to go, let's get it the hell out of here. And so I just wanted it out now, saved it, because it wasn't going to either save Singapore or it wasn't going to save Dutch East Indies. So let's just get that out. I did my best and got good die rolls, if you will, and able to save Singapore by holding this port. If I'd lost this port, basically there's special conditions that allow Singapore to fall easily to represent the idea that Yamashita was out of ammo. Basically, had the British just decided to attack, after a few moments of shooting, the Japanese would have been out of ammo, and we would have seen rapid evacuations, falling back of the Japanese. I don't think they would have just been surrendering, but they would have been crumbling and falling back, and the British would have been doing very well because they had plenty of ammo, not maybe to hold out in a forever siege or something, but they had plenty of ammo, even though they may have been larger forces, and they also had plenty of food for the time being, and the Japanese were low on that as well. Not that they couldn't have maybe lived off the land a bit better, but because there's a lot of plantations that would have had food up and around here for a while. Yeah, we could historically easily seen that taken, but like I say, if the Japanese are crushing everything else up here, they get special abilities to take Singapore. But I was able to hold Kuala Lumpur. I had one more garrison division, and it died in its holding attempts. But yeah, we've been able to do it, so that's changed history a little bit. And so, hey, Al, no problem. The one thing, and I'll bring up again now, that I find a bit of a problem is determining where I can do naval invasions. And so before starting the stream, I played the first turn a few times, trying to figure out in here along this coastline the few places I could naval invade. Is there a map mode, or I think there should be if there isn't, to show me generally where the beaches are that I could invade? That's sort of a little bit of a, for planning instead of just that. Select fleet, hit Z. Okay. Now, I'm just seeing here, this is around here, but what I would like, I guess, is a global version of it just for general planning. But okay, select a fleet, hit Z. Okay, that most assuredly helps. That helps a lot. Doesn't, because I would just like to know, greater areas. Okay, this, like I say, this is very, very helpful. I did not know this existed. So select a fleet, hit Z. It'll show potential invasion beaches within its area of operation. Okay. That is at least halfway to, just because on the idea, if I'm planning what I might want to, if I wanted to come up and invade here, unless it's more dynamic, or not, whatnot, but just to sort of know what I might be doing next turn or the turn after next or something like that for planning. But that is definitely a big help. It's basically any hex which has less than 50% of its land on it. Right. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. I was a bit confused on some of it, just on where I could invade around some of these positions, but that would help. All right. Okay, so we, I think, deployed all that we're going to deploy this turn. We are bringing up forces. We've pushed the Japanese out of whatever city that is. Okay, we'll see if we can get this fleet out. We're going to move you to the port. You guys come up to here. Also, if you go to the upper right and hit the question mark, then hotkeys, you'll see all the actions. Go right and hotkeys. Okay, very good. Very toggle potential invasion, Jesse. Okay, thanks, Alvaro. Really, yeah. I'm not naturally a hotkey user. I'm a mouse kind of clicker kind of guy. Just, I don't know, just the way I grew up learning things. But good. Okay. Very good. Okay, so we have the area. All right, I think just want to check. We've spent as much as we, yeah, we're sort of saving up for both of those for future. Let's give Japan their turn. Okay, so far, oh, okay. Allies deliver resources to China. More transports, U.S. Fleet low. U.S. Marines has no supply. That'll be these guys that are, I think, under no supply. Let's, no, Second Marines, no supply source. Yeah, the Second Marines. Okay, so they're, even though we have level 5 supply, I guess no supply source, so they're, right, okay, well. Yes, don't worry, Alvaro, I have let them know that this is an older build, but just want to sort of show, mentioning AIs, we did have, including this para unit and a few other units that were sort of sitting south of Kunming and looking like they might be thinking about pushing north here. But now that I've moved this Chinese army group down here across the river from them, they've withdrawn all the way back into here. So we forced them to withdraw, which is good. Now these guys are going to come back to Sri Lanka, Colombo to be exact. So now we've cut these guys out. Well, we're not going to attack out just yet, but they're now holding this. Not too many ships, I don't think, are now on it. Okay, so now they've got this unit here, which is pretty good shape. This unit's a little better, but I think we're going to leave this here. Now the question is 1-to-1, not quite want to attack. Well, now with the rain, because we want a better air support, I think we'll leave this where this is and see how they'll be able to hold out. They may push me back out of that city, but that'll be okay. Well, now that we have these guys here and they're on mission and they're going to interceptors, let's see about doing the naval strike here again. Okay, let's look at combat logs, naval airstrike here. Okay, fighter group, air-to-air, combat, naval strike. So defenders losses, home force 6. So that was rather effective for us. And we just lost a little bit there. Sure thing, Alvaro.